Hello, Mr. Dowse here, and in this video we're going to look at Python Programming Lesson 5, which is loops. Now I'm going to jump straight into new key terms now for today's lesson, but if you haven't fully understood inputs and outputs, variable declarations, if statements, conditional operators and casting, for example, well then please look at the video that precedes this, which is on lesson 5, but a bit of knowledge recall, because that will help you understand some of the things that we did in the previous lesson before we start introducing anything new and things get any more complicated. So assuming you're still with me and you're listening to this video, let's jump straight to slide 14 and we're going to have a look at our first new key term today, which is iteration. And iteration links in immediately with what our lesson is on, and our lesson is on loops, or more accurately, for loops. Okay, so what does iteration mean? Well, I'm going to explain. Let's have a look at this first slide here. It says to iterate means to do the same thing over and over again. For example, repeat the same piece of code. And if we move down to here, it says to iterate means to do the same thing over and over again. For example, to repeat the same piece of code. Let's look at this one. It says to iterate means to do the same thing over and over again. For example, to repeat the same piece of code. And what about here? Well, that says to iterate means to do the same thing over and over again. For example, to repeat the same piece of code. You get the idea. To iterate means to repeat something, to do it over and over again. So when I refer to iteration, which I'm going to do quite a lot from now on, I'm talking about repeating myself. I'm talking about repeating the same piece of code to loop over the same piece of code. And I'm going to do that in today's lesson using what's called a for loop. So another new key term is indentation. Now this is something that I should have really talked about in the previous lesson when we did if statements, but I didn't. So we'll discuss it now. And when you create a loop, and I've written while there, which isn't very clever because we're actually using for loops today, so I'll change that. When you create a for loop, the code you want to be repeated must be indented. That means tabbed in a little bit. Okay, an indent is like a big space. So here's my normal line of where my sentences start, and this has been tabbed in, it's indented. To get an indent, we must use the tab key, and the tab key is the one above the caps lock key. We must never ever use a space to get an indent. If we use the space bar, we're going to get syntax errors. So when we're creating loops, everything within the loop is indented, so we know that's the piece of code that's going to be iterated over, it's going to be looped over. We do not use the space bar. Okay, don't panic if that doesn't make full sense. We will see what I mean by that when we look at our first piece of code. We've also now got our other key term, which I've sort of mentioned a couple of times, which is the for loop. And a for loop is a loop that we use when we know how many times we need to iterate. So if I knew that I was going to write a program and I had to iterate 6 times, then I would use a for loop because I know I want it to loop round 6 times. For loops, as with all loops, are controlled by Boolean variables or statements, so true or false statements, and they continue to loop while a statement is true. Okay, the loop stops when the condition is no longer true. Okay, and finally, syntax for a for loop must end with a colon. So just like an if statement, at the end of the if statement we have a colon, and then after the colon, any code that's indented using the tab key, well, that belongs to that for loop. Okay. Now, again, this may seem a little bit confusing at first, okay, but I'm going to go through this and hopefully it'll make a bit more sense in a minute or two. But all of these 3 lines of code here are the starts of for loops. There should be some code within them, okay, to do, but there's just the declaration because there wasn't room. So I've got a for loop that says for I in range 10. I've got one that says for I in range 1, 10, and I've got one that says for I in range 2, 10, 2. Okay, all of those things, all of those 3 statements do something slightly different, and I'm going to explain what now. So I is my variable. It's not a very clever variable name because it's just an I, but it tends to be what we use for a for loop. We tend to use an I or an X because it's the first and the last letter of the word index, and this I is an integer variable, so it's a number, and we use it as an index or a counter to keep track of how many times we've gone around our loop. So in each of these 3 statements I've got a variable called I, and on this one I am saying I want to go up to the range of 10. And what this really means is I want to go up until while I is less than 10. It never does the 10th one. It's always while I is less than 10. So for the explanation for the first for loop, I is set to 0. Okay, if you don't specify what to set I to, it's always set to 0. It's just a fact of Python programming. So it starts at 0, and every time it goes around the loop, it gets incremented by 1. So the first time around the loop, it's 0. Second time around the loop, it's 1. Third time around the loop, it's 2, and so on. So if after for I in range 10, I put print I would actually get this output. The first time round, it would print 0. Then it would print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. It wouldn't get to 10 because it only goes up to or continues to run while I is less than 10. In this second example, I've specified the starting position of I this time. That's what this extra 1 is. If you don't specify it, assume 0, but in this case I've specified it. So I'm saying that I want I to start off life being worth 1, and I want it to carry on all the while it's less than 10. So again, if we had the command under here, print I, on the first trip round it'd be worth 1 because that's what we told it to start at, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6, 7, 8, and then 9. It wouldn't get to 10 because it's only running while it's less than 10. So 9 is the last one it can do. So this actually means it's done one less loop than this first one. Here it did 0 to 9. Here we've only done 1 to 9. And that's because we specified that we want it to start at 1. Our third example of a for loop, we've got for I in range 2, 10, 2. So as we hopefully now know, that means we're going to make I worth 2 to start with. We're going to loop all the while that I is less than 10, but this time we've also specified a third value, and this value is how much I goes up by each time. So previously it just went up by 1 automatically, but this time I'm saying no, I don't want it to go up in 1s, I want it to go up in 2s. So again, if I had print I as part of this for loop, well, the first thing it would print is 2 because we said to start at 2, then it would do 4, then it would do 6, then it would do 8 because we told it to increment by 2 each time. 8 is obviously the last time it goes around because if we add 2 to 8 we're 10. 10 is not less than 10, so our for loop breaks. So that's how we define our for loops. That's how high we want to go. If we want to start at something other than 0, we have to specify, and if we want to go up in something more than 1s, well, we also have to specify. So let's take a look at a piece of code and see if we can make some sense of that. So here's my first example. So for example 1, for I, that's my variable, in range 10. So hopefully we know that I is going to be worth 0, and each time round it's going to be incremented, and when I equals 10, the code is going to break. So what do you expect to happen in this line of code? Note that that's indented. There's my indent, so this line here belongs to this for loop, okay, because it's indented. This line here doesn't. This is something different because it's not indented. So what do you expect these two lines of code to do? I'm creating a loop. It's going to loop round from 0 to 9 times, and in the loop it says print hello world. So your task is to think about that, write down what you think might happen in your ePortfolio, write the code, run the code, take a snip, explain whether you were right or wrong. Here in example 2, well, I've got for I in range 1, 11. Print hello world, comma, I. Hello world is a string, it's in quotes. Comma, what does that do? Well, that's part of string concatenation, but it does something a little bit extra. Can you remember what that is? You will do if you watch my first part of this video. So what's going to happen here? It's going to print something out multiple times, but what's it going to print? I want you to guess. I want you to write it down in your ePortfolio, have a think, try it, see if you can guess what it's going to do. Write the code, run the code, snip the code that you've written, snip the output, tell me if you were right or wrong. So that's our first introduction to print statements. Okay, our next task, well, here I'm just explaining something else. Remember, for this time I've used x just to be a bit different. For x in range MNO, M is my starting number, O, well, that's the steps to move up in, and N, well, that's my upper limit where the loop will stop. So we know that this is the start position, this is the end position, and that's the jumps to go up in. So now I'm saying for I in range 10, print I. Tell me, what do you think that's going to do? What's it going to print on screen? You tell me, write the code, run the code, show me some snips, tell me if you were right or wrong. Why were you wrong? Why were you right? Example 2, for I in range 1, 10, print I, and finally in example 3 for I in range 2, 10, 2, and print I. What are those things going to do? This is going to help you. I want you to tell me first what you think. I want you to write and run the code. Tell me if you were right. Tell me if you were wrong. If you were wrong, why were you wrong? What did it do? Okay, task 20. So this is a little bit different. We had a 1 potato piece of code right the way back in task 2 where we did 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, 4, etc. So we're going to take a copy of that and we're going to call it task 20, and I want you to improve your code so it outputs the rhyme, but it does it using 2 for loops. Okay, so I'm going to start you off. I'm going to say your for loop goes here, and then there's going to be a print statement that's indented. Then you're going to print the word for, and then you're going to have another for loop here, and it's going to have something printed out that's indented, and it's going to print more. So your job is to work out how are you going to get it in this first for loop to print 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato, so it can then print 4, and then in the second loop print 5 potato, 6 potato, 7 potato before it prints more. So that's your first task, and what we've discussed and the bits that we've done here and here should help you to create the for loop to produce your 1 potato program using for loops rather than writing it all out manually like we did right the way back in task 2. Task 21. Open your work from task 20, make a copy, call it task 21. Improve your code so it outputs the rhyme using only 1 for loop. Okay, you can now only have 1 for loop, but again, I've sort of helped you out a little bit. There's going to be 1 for loop controlling it. There's going to be an if statement. There's going to be an elif statement, and there's going to be an else statement within the for loop. So sometimes it's going to say something potato. Sometimes it's going to say the number 4, and sometimes it's going to say more. So it's going to say something potato, 4, or more. Where's my code? For loop to control how many times it does it. 1 possibility, 2 possibilities, the final possibility. Have a go, see how you get on. A little bit tricky that one. You might need to email me for some help, but hopefully when you do, you will attach the Python file and show me what you've got so far. You're going to need a for loop. You're going to need an if, you're going to need an elif, and you're going to need an else. If you haven't put them in, well, at least get that in and try before you ask for some help. Okay? Now, I don't know how long these bits are going to take this time round, so I've created 2 extension tasks. If you've done those bits in under an hour, I would very much like you to have a go at the extension task. Or if you're enjoying your Python programming and you want to prove you can do it, I'd very much like you to have a go at the Python extension tasks. If having done all of this, it's taken you a long time and you've struggled and you've about had enough, well then you don't have to do the extension tasks. You can do them later when you're feeling a bit more up for it, or you can miss them. It's not the end of the world. Okay, but that's only if you've really struggled and you've spent at least an hour doing the work up to this stage. So extension task 1, get the user to enter the times table they want to see. Use a for loop to generate all the times tables from 1 to 12 for the number entered by the user. Can you get the output to look like this if, for example, they entered 2? So 1 times 2 equals 2, 2 times 2 equals 4, 3 times 2 equals 6, all the way down to 11 times 2 equals 22, and 12 times 2 equals 24. Can you create a for loop that does that, gets the input from the user, and then produces a for loop for whatever times table the user enters? Remember, anything entered from the keyboard is a string. You'll need to cast that value before you can do mathematical operations on it. Second extension task, if you whiz through those and you fancy one more challenge, well, I want you to do exactly the same as the last task, but now I want you to display it backwards. So 12 times 2 first, and then 11 times 2 and 10, all the way down to 1 times 2. So here's a little tip. If the last variable in the range of a for loop is a negative number, the loop will count backwards. Let's have a little look at our for loops. So let's find one where it's got an extra number in it. Can't find it, but there's one around here somewhere. Here we go. Number to start at, number to end at, number to increment. If that number is negative, it will count backwards. Okay, so that's a big clue on how to do the second extension task. There's a plenary there, a few little questions. Haven't seen anybody yet have a go at any of these plenary questions and add them to their e-portfolio. It would be very, very nice if a few of you picked on a few of these questions and gave me some definitions to show that you understand. And that ends Python Lesson 5 on loops. Thanks for watching.